Yay, you're live. Miracle. Okay, better a second round than not at all, right? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Hashem,
I've
for
been sending anyone else who
the divine
listening
intervention,
on
provision, and
YouTube
help
as well.
to get this class going.
It will work out well.
May it be the will of the Almighty that everything work perfectly from this point on. And welcome to the class. I'm sending the class over to my husband first, and then I'll come in right behind him, hopefully. Okay, let's do this. Oh, here you go, husband. Somebody came in.
Very good. Welcome, everybody who is coming in. Thank you for your patience. We have had challenges, and we ask the Almighty to help us with regard to the YouTube and the use of the computer. We hope that we won't have any further trouble.
Amen.
Yes, Hashem. Okay, this is Parsha and Haftorah evening, and the Parsha this week is Pinchas, and it follows very, very beautifully and very clearly from last week's portion of Balak, in which we found that Balak tried to destroy the Jewish people by having them cursed by Bil'am. And we found that every single time that Bilam tried to curse the Jewish people, that he came out with blessings instead. God put into his mouth. We say into his mouth. At one point, Bilam said, I don't want to go and report what you just told me about the Jewish people. I don't want to report to the person who hired me, who was Balak, the king of Moab, because it's just going to upset him when he hears my blessings for the Jewish people instead of the opposite. So the Almighty put a harness in his mouth. What do you call it? The bit? Maybe my wife can help me with that. What do you call it? What you put in the horse's mouth to control it? A bridle into his mouth, and forced him to go and tell Balak the prophecy that God had given for the Jewish people. So this was a tremendous demonstration of the Almighty's love for the Jewish people. And there's a tremendous connection between the end of that portion, last week's portion, Balak, and this week's portion, which is called Pinchas, who was a grandson of Aaron. So I'm going to begin with a story you might have heard many, many times. Maybe you're tired of the story and you won't laugh at it, but maybe smile. I won't be insulted, but this time it really is a very fitting story for the circumstances we're discussing tonight. A man came to a rabbi and said, I want to be a Kohen. And the rabbi told him, you can't just want to be a Kohen. So he says, well, I'll offer you $10,000 if you make me into a Kohen. He says, you can't buy being a Kohen with money. I'll give you $20,000. And he keeps upping the amount of money way, way up. And the rabbi still keeps saying, no, I'm sorry, I cannot do this. This cannot be done. So the rabbi, out of curiosity, asked the man, and he says, why do you want to be a Kohen so badly that you're really trying to convince me and bribe me and really, as much as you can, force me into making you a Kohen? Why do you want it so badly? So the man says, my father was a Kohen, and my grandfather was a Kohen. I want to be a Kohen too. That's why it's so important to me. Well, of course, the rabbi explained to him, you can't buy the kahuna. You have to be born into it. You have to be a grandson, or in this case, great-great-great-great-grandson of Aaron, whose 4 sons actually were the first Kohanim. 2 of them passed away, but the other 2 continued the kahuna, and the Kohanim that we have today are descendants of Aaron, the high priest. So if your father was a Kohen and your grandfather was a Kohen, you don't have to buy the priesthood. You are automatically a Kohen. So, of course, it sounds kind of silly to us when we see that this person wasn't aware of this basic Torah fact that since his father and his grandfather were Kohanim, that he automatically, of course, was a Kohen. So our portion, Pinchas, begins in a strange way with an individual whose father was a Kohen named Elazar. His grandfather was a Kohen named Aaron, the high priest. He was not a Kohen at the beginning of the portion. How could that possibly be? The answer is that when Aaron and his sons were anointed to become the first priests of the Jewish people, and Aaron, of course, was the high priest, and his sons were regular priests, this only included them and any children that would be born to them after they became priests. After Aaron was anointed as high priest, his sons were anointed as regular priests. After that, any children that they would have would automatically be priests. Well, there was a very, very worthy grandson of Aaron. His father was Elazar, son of Aaron. His grandfather was none other than Aaron, the high priest. He was not a Kohen. Why? Because he had been born before his father became a Kohen himself. And therefore, he had missed out. He missed out by being born before his father and his grandfather, for that matter, were anointed as the priests of the Jewish people. So he was an individual whose father was a Kohen. His grandfather was the Kohen Gadol, the great Kohen, and he was not a Kohen until this week's portion. How did he become a Kohen? Not only he, but he also, his children throughout the generations would also be Kohanim. How did that happen? I thought he missed out. So the answer is connected very closely with last week's portion. As we learned that Bilam tried to curse the Jewish people, he knew the exact instant when the Almighty is angry. Even Moses didn't know that, by the way. This was Bilam had enormous talents and enormous abilities, which he used for filth and rottenness and lewdness and immorality. He had tremendous influence and power. And the reason God gave him the ability to be a prophet so that the nations wouldn't say, you know, if you gave us a prophet like you do the Jewish people, we'd be good too. We'd be good people like fun. In fact, this prophet, this Bilam, encouraged them to do exactly the opposite, as I'll explain very soon. Bilam tried 3 times to curse the Jewish people. As they say, the Almighty was very careful not to get angry that whole time that Bilam was trying to hurt them. Bilam, I explained like last week, I'm trying to use modern day terms. He was the nuclear scientist. Like, remember, Iran had all these nuclear scientists to try to make an atomic bomb and many atomic bombs. And they're not embarrassed at all. They say, clearly, we want to completely wipe out the Jewish people, God forbid. Just like Bolak, just like Bilam, just like all the other enemies of the Jewish people throughout time. Generation after generation, in every generation, there's someone who tries to destroy us. Out of jealousy, out of baseless hatred absolutely for nothing. In many cases, we're very beneficial wherever we live, wherever we've been spread around in the world. And they take our money, they take our brains, and then they turn against us. They either throw us out or try to hurt us. Very, very horrible. Well, Bilam tried. He tried the 3 times, and he failed. And the guy who, king, I'll have to call him respectfully, the king who hired him was thoroughly disgusted with him, and he says, run back, why don't you just run back to your country, which was actually his country too, originally, by the way, Bullock country, Midian. Run back, and God doesn't want you to have the big fortune of money that you were hoping to make doing this, etc., etc. You're supposed to be this top nuclear scientist prophet to be able to do what I wanted to get rid of the Jewish people, get them out, and you failed. You were not able to do it. God does not want you to have these benefits that I had offered you. Okay. Well, that should have been the end of it. And we should have hoped that that should have been the end of it. Balaam should just go back to Midian. Goodbye, good riddance. And the Jewish people would just continue on their journey to go into Eretz Yisrael, the land of Israel. We're very close at that point. Very, very close at that point. Very close to the Jordan River. We just, as I told you many times, just trying to cross the street into our own country, not looking to conquer other people's. They wouldn't let us by. They wouldn't let us get through. So we had to fight our way through in order to be able to get to Israel. Well, Balaam doesn't just go home. He says to Balak, who hired him, the God of the Jewish people hates immorality. I'll tell you what to do. The one way, I hope you remember this forever, the one way that anyone can get at the Jewish people is when they sin, when they defy the Almighty's instructions, even the most basic fundamental principles of our Holy Torah, one God, live a moral life, live a just life, an honest life. When we defy God's basic rules, remember the manual we spoke about last time? The manual on Sunday we spoke about? God gave us a manual for life, the Torah, to teach us how to have a wonderful, worthy, pure, holy, and very, very understanding life of others, to be helpful to others, and bring goodness and light into the world. That's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to encourage others to be moral, to be honest, to be just, to be compassionate to their fellow man or woman. So Balaam says there's one way to get at the Jewish people. Get them to sin, and the Almighty will dump them. That's what Balaam thought. That way will get them to destroy themselves. Unfortunately, Balak listened to him. He encouraged the Midianite girls and Moabite girls to entice the Jewish people to sin, immoral behavior. And before a person would be sinning with one of these women, they said, you have to bow down to my you have to bow down to my idol, which was called Peor. The word Peor means to bury yourself. In this case, it means to bury your bottom and go to the bathroom. I'm not kidding. A filthy, stupid way of worshiping their idol. And still, once again, worship in any form of a false god is violating the entire Torah. You know, the very first commandment, I'm the Lord your God. Rabbi Siniska mentions it all the time. There shall not be to you any false gods of others. And if one worships an idol the way it's worshipped, they have committed a tremendous, tremendous sin. And the Almighty was furious with the Jewish people. There's a big, big lesson over here. But first, let's get to Pinchas. Those who did worship this false god in a filthy, stupid way, they were being judged with capital punishment, which they surely deserved. That the judges of the Jewish people had the responsibility to fulfill the capital punishment for these people. So the tribe of Shimon rose up. They went to their prince. That's like the governor. Just like we have a governor of a state, the prince of the tribe is like the governor of the tribe. He's supposed to be a person with high qualifications and very high character and high Torah knowledge as well. So they go to their governor, they go to their prince, and they say, we are being judged with death, and you're just sitting there, you're not going to do anything about it? So what does he do? He grabs hold of a Midianite princess, not any girl, Midianite princess. He goes over to Moses and said, is this woman permitted for me to marry? Moses says, no, she's not a Jewish woman. They have received the Torah already. They were not just Noachites, the Jewish people, and now the Jewish people. By the way, who are they exactly? The children. These are the children of those who left Egypt. Remember we said that those who left Egypt rebelled against God In the wilderness, they sent the spies. Spies gave a bad report. They said, we'd rather die here than go to Israel. God said, that's what you want, that's what you get. We learned this in previous weeks. So at any rate, what happened here is that the new generation, not all of them, of course, but the new generation failed in this test, unfortunately again. And this horrible governor of the tribe of Shimon goes into his tent with the woman to defy the Torah, defy God, defy Moses. And he's sinning with this Midianite woman. And everybody knows about it. No shame, not bashful, not total immodesty. It unfortunately reminds me of the total immodesty of this day and age as well. Total immodesty. No shame, no respect, no moral inclination. 0, 0, 0. That's the report card of this generation. With exceptions, of course. And it's up to our people to set people straight. The Almighty's anger was incredibly intense. And a plague, a deadly plague, struck the people. Now, when we learn about this, like the 10 plagues also, which sickness, by the way, sickness was accompanying each of the 10 plagues as well. When we learn about this, it's a centuries ago, I can't relate to it, it's from another planet. You can't relate to it? You don't remember any plagues? Are you sure you don't remember any plagues? It seems to be not very long ago there was a terrible plague called COVID. Remember COVID? It was even called a plague. It was even called that. And it affected young and old as well. And it spread like wildfire. And even though they came up with a vaccine, this was during President Trump's first term, the vaccine has proven to be very deadly in itself and dangerous in itself, causing many other sicknesses as well. You can't outsmart the Almighty, let me tell you. So you and I do know what a plague is. And you and I know of people, of families whose loved ones, or perhaps our own friends and loved ones, perish in the COVID plague. You and I can relate to these things in the Bible, in the Torah, very, very closely. We really can. Well, the people came up to Moses and they started crying. Who saved them in the instant of the golden calf? Who saved them when the Egyptians pursued them? Who saved them when they complained over and over again? Over and over again, Moshe Rabbeinu asked the Almighty to spare the people and to forgive them and give them another chance. This happened over and over and over again. This time was different. This time, Moses didn't know what to do. You have a super sinful Jewish man who's the governor of his tribe, the prince of his tribe. He's making a public desecration of God and the Torah, sinning with a non-Jewish woman, all very publicly and very, very unashamedly. And Moses said, I can't remember what the law is. This is the man who received the entire Torah from God at Mount Sinai. And this is an instance, there were several instances, we may have time to mention another one, in which Moses didn't know what to do. The people are weeping and crying. Why? Because people are dying. They're dying. This person, this horrible prince of Shimon is sinning. The Almighty is furious with the Jewish people. Moses himself doesn't know what to do. A grandson of Aaron, the high priest, who was not included. He was not a priest. He was a Levite, just of the tribe of Levi. Nothing special. He had a wonderful family background. Very nice. But he was not a Kohen. He saw this incredibly horrible desecration of God, desecration of the Torah, desecration of the entire Jewish people. He picked up a sword And he proceeded to the tent where this prince of Shimon was sitting. And there were guards. How could he get in? There were guards protecting this prince so he could continue sinning. Pretty horrible situation. So he said, "What are you doing here?" He says, "Oh, I want to help God. I want to make sure things continue. And maybe I'll sin with the woman too. Maybe I'll have a turn too." Which, of course, was a lie, but it enabled him to get in. He comes in, he sees them sinning, and I'm not going into the nitty-gritty details that are a little bit sickening. He stabs them both while both bodies are together. He stabs them both where it hurts. I have to put it that way, okay? Where it hurts, he killed them both, and many miracles were done for him. You think that his tribe was happy that the prince was killed? They wanted to kill Panthus himself. God made many miracles to save him. In fact, he took the spear with these two. I think my wife used the expression, what they call that, shish kebab. He had made shish kebab out of the two of them, and he's parading them around the tent. Very heavy to do that. The spear didn't even break. The handle is made out of wood. Just the point is made out of metal. Many miracles were done for him. He had the courage. He had the courage to pick up a spear. He went to his teacher Moses first, and he asked Moses, "Didn't you teach us that one who sins blatantly with a non-Jewish woman, that people who are zealous for God," there's a white block in the screen. I don't know if it makes a difference or not. Okay. He asked his teacher first, Moses first, what to do. And he says, "Didn't you teach us, Moses, respectfully, that one who sins blatantly in such a manner, desecrating the Almighty, desecrating the Torah, etc., that those who are zealous for God, those who are anxious to remove the terrible desecration, they can go and kill the perpetrator of such a terrible crime?" Moses said, "The one who read the letter, meaning the Torah, should go fulfill it." So it's important, number one, that Pinchas did not act on his own without consulting Moshe Rabbeinu, our great teacher Moses, first. He took his life in his hands. He wasn't looking for any kind of glory whatsoever. All he wanted to do is to stop the plague. Wanted people weeping because people were dying like flies? To stop the plague, to stop the Almighty's will. And that was going to be the end of it. So the people start making fun of Pinchas. They make fun of him. Look at his background. He originally comes also from an unusual background. I'm not going to go into all the details now. Yes, his father was the son of Aaron, and his grandfather was Aaron. But the question, who is his mother and where did she come from, etc.? She came also from Jethro's family, which were idolaters originally. So I'm not going into all those details now. They were making fun of him. So in this week's portion, at the beginning, what does the Almighty say? It's a very, very beautiful portion, and it teaches us so many important lessons that we can learn. I like to read it directly to you. The words are so beautiful. Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe lemor, and God spoke to Moses, saying, "Pinchas," that's the man who had the courage, ben Elazar, son of Elazar, who is a Kohen, ben Aaron a Kohen, son of Aaron, his grandfather was a Kohen. Yeshivis Chamasi, he set back my anger, me al bnei Israel, from the Jewish people, Bikano as kinasi b'socham. He took upon himself to avenge the disgrace to God, the disgrace to the Torah. He took that upon himself. And because he did so, Israel, God says, I did not wipe out the Jewish people because I was so totally angry with them again. Over and over and over again, we get ourselves into the most horrible problem. Therefore, in Moshe, Hanani no saying lo, I'm giving to Pinchas a great gift as Brisi Shalom, my treaty a treaty of peace, not only a treaty of peace, but I'm giving to him Bohoi Shalo Zaroach Harab. It shall be to him and his seed after him, his children after him, Brish Kunas Olam, the treaty, the covenant of the priesthood forever. He wasn't a priest. His father was a priest. His grandfather was a priest, but he was not. He didn't pay money like in the silly story that we tell, and he didn't ask to be a priest. The Almighty is giving them this special holiness because of his great courage to defend the Torah, to defend the Almighty, and to save the Jewish people. Takas Shekini L'Akol, because he acted with great zealousness for God. Vayakap here of Bnei Yisrael, and he brought forgiveness for the Jewish people. So we learned so many beautiful lessons from here, and I went over my usual time. I'm going to go a little later too. I'm going to go a little bit further. Some of the beautiful lessons from this portion. I want to tell you about a group of Jewish women in this portion. I'm going to take a few minutes for that too. I'd like to. Judaism gives enormous respect for the Jewish woman, and the Jewish woman has saved us over and over. But Esther, Queen Esther, etc., who also put her life in danger to save us. Okay. First of all, I want to take some lessons from this whole story. Nobody can touch us unless we ourselves disgrace the Almighty and His Torah.
It's written in the
That's exactly what happened. Yeah, it's exactly what happened. That we brought the whole calamity upon ourselves. Bilam secretly, as they tell you, if the Torah didn't give us all the information, we wouldn't know it. Bilam was secretly trying to curse and destroy us. Nothing doing. The Almighty saw to it. In fact, by the way, he tried to curse us instead of using weaponry and armor. So he tried to curse us with his mouth, which is our prayers, our mouth is what we use for defense. And we're doing it right now with our study of the Torah. Bilam, you'll find this. The nuclear scientists, you're going to really love this. Bilam was familiar with all kinds of high, powerful spiritual things, just like a nuclear scientist knows science, right, for the atomic bomb. So he's flying there in air when the Jewish people were told to punish Midian. He's flying there in the sky in mid-air. Listen to this, just like today. They shot him down from the sky. And he perished for his wicked attempt to destroy the Jewish people. We're our own worst enemy. If we don't let our evil inclination, we don't let anybody, whether they be the nations or our own enemy inside us. The enemy inside us is the worst enemy of all. Our worst enemy is we ourselves. If we don't let that evil, that wickedness get the best of us, no one can touch us. No one can touch us at all. Throughout history, this has been the story. I can't take too much time. I want to tell you about the daughters of Zelophehad for a few minutes because courageous, very wonderful, courageous Jewish women that are in this week's portion as well. So we must learn that throughout history, it's our own failures that have brought upon all these calamities. I don't want to point fingers at anybody. I'll make maybe quiet references just for a couple of minutes. Okay. The story of Esther. Wasn't there a Haman, a Khomeini, may he be destroyed immediately? Wasn't there a Haman who convinced the king, emperor over the whole world to destroy the entire Jewish people one day? Same story all over again. Same story. What did we do? What did we do to even get into that horrible trouble? And Queen Esther risked her life entering the palace to plead for our case and was able to save us. What did we do? Here again, we're our own worst enemy. At the beginning of the Megillah Esther, there's two big parties. First party was for all the rulers of all the countries around the world, because Ahasuerus ruled over the entire world, and all these were his, uh, what's the word, proxies? Good, like Iran has its proxies. All these kings were like his proxies. They were under him. So they're invited, and they take up the issue. We want to get rid of the Jewish people. Pure hatred, pure hatred. They take our brains, they take our money, they benefit from us, and they reward us by turning against us. That applies to Spain and the Inquisition too. All these countries, Germany as well, all of them, all of them. Wherever we have gone and improved things there, and they have benefited and enjoyed the improvement, they just turn against it. That goes to Egypt too, by the way. To Egypt as well. Many blessings in Egypt as a result of the Jewish people being there. No, they're going to make a war against us. Total lie. Total lie. Okay. What do we do? And the story of, I haven't got time to go to too many examples.
You can take all the
But
time you
this
need.
example is so blatant it has to be discussed. You've got 180-day party. Boy, you need lots of Alka-Seltzer for that. My goodness, wow. A lot of 180 days of party, and what did the Jews and not be what they come up with? Make another party. There's a second party in which the Jews will be invited to, and there'll be kosher food and non-kosher food. There'll be kosher wine and non-kosher wine. There will be women around to sin with. Things to look at, we must look at. Things to do, we mustn't do. On their own, they won't be. Ain't ones, it says at the beginning of the Megillah. Nobody was forced. Ain't ones. You can do as you please. There again, we're our own worst enemy. And unfortunately, we chose to eat the wrong things, do the wrong things. And that's how we got under the thumb of the horrible Haman, the whole horrible committee of those days. What Esther did is she got everybody together to fast for 3 days and ask for forgiveness from God. That's how she did it. And then she went into the king to plead our case. That's one of the famous examples that we have. In each case, including in Egypt, and including in Germany too, unfortunately, some of our people made a very big error, and they decided to convert to Protestantism, which is one of the branches of Christianity. Why? Why? For 1,000 years, the Jewish community had actually practiced Judaism in Germany. 1,000 years is a long time, isn't it? Well, these very sinful and very foolish Jews thought they'll do better as Protestants than as Jews. One of the famous examples of this is the children of Moses Mendelssohn. Moses Mendelssohn was a practicing Jew himself. All of his children converted to Christianity because they thought they'd do better. Businessmen, bankers, they thought they'll do better as non-Jews. Again, we're our own worst enemy. The grandson of Moses Mendelssohn was a very famous composer. His name was Felix Mendelssohn. And he was converted as a youngster. It wasn't his fault. Unfortunately, he was misled by his father. And the grandfather remained a Jew, but his children all converted. So the idea was, if you convert to Christianity, the non-Jews will accept you and you'll be more successful. He was a composer. One of the things he did was to make himself more acceptable. Everybody knew he was a Jew. In fact, he's the one who discovered the manuscripts of Johann Sebastian Bach, the very famous composer from the Baroque period, perhaps the most famous composer of all time, was Johann Sebastian Bach. He's the one who discovered the manuscripts and got people playing Bach's music again. And people were saying, isn't this amazing that a Jew discovered Again, in low terms, a Jew is the one who discovered this great music of Bach, etc., etc. So Moses tries this too. Not Moses, I said it wrong. Excuse me. Felix, the grandson, thought he'll do better if he can win the favor of the people of Germany. He was already converted to a Christian, but they know who's Jewish and not Jewish. You think you can fool them? You think you can pretend and be accepted by them? God warns us over and over again, just like in the portion, sinning with these Midianite women, bowing down or going to the bathroom to their idol, etc. Stupid as that is. This same idea, this same idea. Be like those nations. Be like them. They'll welcome you. You'll be successful. You'll be rich. You'll be safe. None of it. So what does Felix Mendelssohn do? He's a great composer. So he writes a piece called the Reformation Symphony. Reformation. See the word reform. I bet you your first thought is, since he was Jewish, it must have to do with Reform Judaism. Maybe he was writing a symphony to encourage people to join Reform Judaism. No, he was not. The Protestants made a rebellion against the Catholic Church, and they reformed the church into their religion called Protestantism. That's where it started. You may have heard of Luther. Luther was one of them, etc., who promoted this revolution against the split against the Catholic Church. So that was called the Reformation of a different religion for Germany and other countries too. So Felix Mendelssohn thought, if I write a Reformation symphony, which is praising them for what they did, praising their religion, I'll be way up there in the electric lights. I'll be accepted as a Christian, and that will do wonders for my career. Again, in his case, it's not his fault. He was unfortunately converted as a child. He and his sister, very, very sad, etc., etc. What happened? It didn't work. He's a Jew, a Jew, a Jew, a Jew. It didn't work. They never accepted him really as a Christian. I'm glad they didn't, because a Jew is always a Jew. So we take one of these many lessons from this portion. I'm going to take some more time from Reverend Sinyiska. Ask her forgiveness to begin with. Okay.
You gave me a half Torah that's not here.
Yeah, it's in the back. Yeah, I'll have to find it. I can find it for you. But it's
yeah, because I can't. I tried and I cannot.
Yeah, it's because it's this special Torah for the 3 weeks. For these three Sabbaths, this one is number one on that, and I'll find it for her very shortly. Okay.
If you want, just teach on the hot floor today.
I'll say a couple of words and I'll let you take over.
No, I don't need to take over.
All right. I'm not going to do full lesson on that. I'm going to take a few more minutes, but do something. Do something on your part. Okay.
I can't. No matter what glasses.
Yeah, I'll have to take care of that tomorrow. There's a group of 5 wonderful women. And I always point out that the Jewish woman is given great respect and honor. They've saved us many times. In fact, in Egypt, there wouldn't be a Jewish people because the men had left their wives and said, forget it. There's no point in having kids because, look, they're just going to be slaves like us. And they encouraged their husbands to continue the Jewish people, to keep us alive, and many other wonderful things. By the way, when the men wanted to go back to Egypt, the women said, yeah, you want to go back to Egypt? We want Israel. We're going to Israel. Go ahead, you go back to Egypt. We're staying here. We're in the wilderness and we're going to go to Israel. Again and again, over and over again. Remember we said that the men between 20 and up that were in the Jewish army originally, they all died during those 40 years because they said, we'd rather die here in the wilderness than go to Israel. God said, fine. And just like, if that's what you want, that's what you get. Of course, they regretted it enormously, and they tried to go to Israel anyway, and they were defeated by our old enemy, Amalekite. Okay, we don't want to take up too much time. 5 of these wonderful Jewish women of the time that we're speaking about now, this is the generation that is going to go into the promised land, our land. So, following the passage that teaches us the order of inheritance, of who inherits when someone passes away, who is the first, if that person doesn't exist, they don't have a son, for instance, they don't have children, who does it go to next, etc., etc. I haven't got time to go into those laws now. But there's a group of these 5 women, Vatikravna Beno Slavcha, the daughters of a man named Slavcha. I know it sounds kind of funny. He was one of those who had left Egypt. The daughters of Slavcha, Ben Hefer, the son of Hefer, Ben Gilad, the son of Gilad, Ben Mocher, Ben Menashe. The Torah traces these girls' genealogy up to the tribe of Menashe, who was from Joseph, as we know. Lemishpachos Menashe ben Yosef, from the families of Menashe, the son of Yosef. Me'ele Shmos ben Osav, the Torah enumerates their names: Machla, Noah, Vachogla, Milcah, Vesircha. 2 of these names are often heard today, that people still name daughters Milcah and Tirzah. The other names we don't hear normally, but unfortunately they're neglected. These 5 women, they stand before Moshe and in front of Elazar the Kohen. Aaron passed away, and his son Elazar became high priest. And they're standing in front of the princes of the Jewish people, not Shimon, not the bad guy, but the other princes of the Jewish people. They are standing in front of the portable holy temple that the Jewish people built in the wilderness. And they're addressing Moses, the great Moses himself. They're addressing the new high priest, son of the old high priest, and the princes of the congregation. And this is what they're saying. Ovinu meis bamidbar. Our father, whose name was Zelophehad, passed in the wilderness. He passed away. If he didn't pass away, he would be inheriting a piece of land in Israel now. V'hu lo haya. Our father wasn't amongst the wicked group, Hanoadim al Hashem, that met against God, Badas Korach. Remember the rebellion of Korach? Korach rebelled and says, "Why is Moses the king?" And he gives his brother Aaron, the high priest, and he starts a whole big rebellion, and the earth opened up its mouth and swallowed them up. Our father wasn't one of those wicked people. He wasn't one of those who rebelled by the spies. He wasn't one of those who complained about the food in Egypt. Kivacheto Mace, it's only because of his own sin that he died. He wasn't amongst these wicked groups. That's their point. He only had us as kids. He did not have any sons. He only had us as kids. So the laws of inheritance at that point seem to only be masculine, only going to males, starting with the sons, or going back, if there's no sons, to go back to their father, all males, etc., to uncles. There's a whole order which the Torah gives. So these girls are coming very courageously and respectfully in front of the great Torah court, the court of Jewish law, called Beis Din, house of the law. Who was in charge? Moses himself. And he has also there, he has the high priest, the new high priest, and the princes of the different tribes. And they say in front, it's very, today women are very independent. They have all kinds of jobs and all kinds of responsibilities, and they do all kinds of things. They are governors, can be governors, they've been candidates for president too, governors. They are governors of the wonderful Kristi Noem of South Dakota. She's a high officer now for President Trump. She did tremendous, wonderful things for South Dakota that inspired the whole country. And many other very wonderful women governors and women of great statures. Remember Margaret Thatcher from the United Kingdom, from England. Many others that you've heard of as well. Wonderful people. So these women are living at a time when it was hard to get up in front of the men. Usually their father, their brothers would represent them at the rabbinical court. If they have a message and a request to make, they would send it with a man. So it took a lot of courage because we're living in an age in the biblical times. Women were very modest and shy, and very rarely did they appear before men. These girls come up before Moses and the princes of the tribes, and they are going to present a request. They say that their father had no sons and only has us as daughters. At that point, it looked like women would not inherit. They would not inherit from their parent who had passed away, from their father passed away. So they come respectfully, again respectfully. Loma yigarashim avinu. Why should our father be made less mitoch mishpachto from his family? Ki ein lo bein, just because he has no son. Shno lono achuza. The girls say, give us a portion in Israel. Avinu, amongst the brothers of our father. They have sons, the brothers of their father. They have sons, the sons are getting a piece of Israel. The men said, as you recall, we want to go back to Egypt. We don't even want to go to Israel. We'd rather die here in the wilderness. And look at the Jewish woman. Look, they're asking respectfully, we love Israel. We want to have a piece of Israel. Our father had no sons, so we can't therefore inherit like other members of the family. Other members of the family have sons, and their sons are getting a piece of Israel. Our father had no sons. So what happened? Moshe Rabbeinu was taught this law also. Again, he didn't know what to say to them. What did he do? Vayakrave Moshe. Moshe brought close his mishpatan lefnei Hashem. Don't you wish you and I could do that? He was able to communicate with God face to face. Any problems that rise up, and this is a problem. It's a respectful question. What do you do if a person has no sons? What happens? Does that mean that that person who passed away, who would have gotten a portion, that portion would not go to his daughters? That would be given to others instead. Want to find out the answer? It's a beautiful answer. Vayomer Hashem el Moshe lemor. God said to Moshe, say, King, yes, yes, very well, yes, but no Slavcha Dovros. The daughters of Slavcha, they are well spoken. They are right. It's a tremendous thing when you ask the Almighty for help. And it seems that the law is against you and the situation is against you. The Almighty says, no. They are right. No son titin lehem achuzas nachalot. You surely, it's double language. You shall surely give to them a portion of inheritance, besoch achei avihem, amongst the brothers of their father. Havarta, you should make it move past nachlas avihin lahem. Move the inheritance of their father, which seemed to be going to go to his brothers and go to others. They get their father's inheritance. It's a very beautiful thing. And they actually explained their words very logically. I'm not going to go into the details now. They said, following Torah principles, it seems to us that we should be to have a portion in the land of Israel. And if not, then our mother has to do the Levirate law. I can't go into all the details now. And follow the law of a woman who has no children. If we don't count. God says, girls count. Women count, and they're 100% right. And they were given a portion of what their father would have gotten in the land of Israel. So one of the very, very beautiful lessons of this parsha is when one goes about things the right way, The wrong way results in a terrible plague, as we have with the sinning with the women in Midian, bringing upon ourselves our own guilt and our own punishment. Here you have a group of women who normally would be very shy and be stuck at home, maybe send men to argue their case. No, they go respectfully, and using the laws of the Torah. They're women. They knew the laws of the Torah too. When Moses taught, they listened. They listened too. And using the principles of the Torah, they were indicating that they should have a portion in the land. And they want Moses to judge the case. He couldn't judge the case. And he had to go to God to get the answer. This is another situation in which, because God wanted individual or a group to have the great merit of bringing out a portion of the Torah. When Moses didn't know what to do with the plague, right? He didn't know what to do with the plague. People are crying. Pinchas comes along, risks his life, and God recognizes him and makes him a Kohen for the first time, makes him a legitimate priest. These girls come before the rabbinical court of Moses. Again, Moses didn't know what to say. He learned the whole Torah with God, but purposely the Almighty wanted these girls throughout history and the wonderful Jewish woman throughout history to see all of us should see the wonderful qualities and wonderful brave courage of the Jewish woman who was always fighting for Judaism and fighting for the survival of Judaism, that this portion that I just read was in their merit. Moses had remembered, he would have said, "Oh, I remember learning. God told me this law, etc. I remember the girls, if there's no boys, then the girls are her." He forgot. The Almighty wanted these wonderful women to have the merit to teach, first of all, teaching people how wonderful a Jewish woman can be and should be, and how responsible and respectful, how they should be respected and honored as well. And the Almighty says, "He asked respectfully, he asked properly." It said, "Their words are well spoken." Their words are well spoken. They are right. And you are to give them, each one of them, a portion in the land of Israel. Okay, thank you for joining us. Say just a word or two about the Torah.
Thank you.
These three Torahs, starting with this week, with the book of Jeremiah. The book of Jeremiah, he's the prophet of the destruction. Later we'll have 7. These are going to be 3 Torahs predicting the destruction because of the sins of the Jewish people. Who did it? Why did it happen? We ourselves are our own worst enemy, and we bring our worst enemies upon us, etc. I don't want to cast too much attention on this. October 7th. I'm not going to go into detail. There was a festival on Yom Tov, on Shabbos, on a holiday. People belonged in the synagogue. That's where we belong. I'm not going to go further into that. Let's be sure that we make the proper choices right now. And just right now, you and I are defending the Jewish people this moment. You in Gaza, the fighting is incredibly, terribly intense. Unfortunately, we've heard almost week after week these horrible terrorists put a bomb in the trucks or in the tanks and murder our wonderful soldiers. We need God's help. We are winning.
We always need
But
His
make the right choices. You in your life, and myself and my wife in our life, all of us should make the proper choices in which your money will say, okay, he is man who loves him. The time of your redemption, it's here. It has come. Okay.
Before you stop, before you end,
Yeah.
could you explain in an abridged version of the fact that in today's world, idolatry is not a false god as much as people who worship their cars, their money, And
Excellent point and excellent question.
because the Haftorah had to do with idolatry.
Right. Excellent. If you take anything in the universe, be it a person, be it a statue, be it an animal, be it a star, be it the sun, be it the moon, anything, be it betting, be it giving into immorality, when anything distracts you from recognizing and worshiping the one and only God, that is a form of idolatry. It doesn't have to be a false God. It doesn't have to even be J.C. Penney. The person says, there's a wonderful baseball game going on. Yeah, I want to go to the baseball game.
Sure.
It's Shabbos. It's not what you do on Shabbos. Should I go to shul? Should I go to synagogue and pray? Or should I go to the baseball time,
Really?
have a non-kosher hot dog, and have myself a wonderful time? If they make the wrong choice, it's not just violating the Sabbath. It's not just eating non-kosher. It's not just really ignoring the holy Shabbos. Something is more important than God. Anything, money, cars, any kind of activities like I just mentioned, etc., etc. This is idolatry. You make something more important than God. As you can see, just about every sin and failure comes into this category. It's actually a form of idolatry. In the case of an individual who not normally able to go to the synagogue because their work schedule doesn't permit it, they had a day off, and here's their chance that they could go to the synagogue, even though they normally cannot. And the same day, there's a wonderful show. I won't say what kind. It's a certain kind of something. The thing itself is not sinful. It's okay. But the person, I want to go to this show and see all those wonderful things that they have on display. And maybe I can buy something. So I said to the person, you have one chance to go to the synagogue. You're always working. You normally can't go. Yeah, you could go. You have the day off. If you do this other thing, which is not sinful in itself, nothing non-kosher about it, nothing not immodest about it, but instead of going to synagogue and praying with a minyan, you're choosing something else. This is a form of idolatry. Let's make the right choices. Let's choose the Almighty. Let's do what we can to pray for Israel, to pray for our poor soldiers, wonderful soldiers who are being killed week after week after week. They're fighting with all their might. They put everything, including their lives and their families, everything is out of the way to save the land of Israel, to save the Jewish people. That's what they're sacrificing their life for. Let's respect that, and let's do what we can. Our prayers, our giving charity on their behalf, all the good deeds that we do, going to synagogue, if you can go to synagogue, if you have a synagogue to go to it. Please do. We wish we had one here. All these things are ammunition. We're winning. There's a tremendous cost, a loss of wonderful life, wonderful Jewish soldiers, men and women, or women, wonderful women soldiers. They have this courage, like the daughters of Tzalofchad, to save their country. Courage, bravery, respect for their country. My country is my home. That's what we're saying. My country is my home. I'm defending my home. So let's do our best and continue to study the Holy Torah to fulfill it as best we can and encourage others as well. Thank you very much for joining us, and I took all my wife's time.
No, I'm so glad because explain to everybody I have an eye exam tomorrow because my eyes are challenging me.
Please pray for Yizka Chayalea, your wonderful teacher who teaches much better than I do. Please pray for Yizka Chayalea.
My eyeball.
Pastor Vora, please bless for her. that she should be helped by the doctor to be able to see wonderfully and continue and improve on her wonderful work. Thank you for joining us, and be well. We look forward to learning with you again.
Thank you. Yes, your husband. Excellent, excellent.
Thank
Let me
you.
check your
Ribbons and cats?
There we go. Oh, that's why I need husband. Someone to help me at the computer because all these things pop up on the screen. But it doesn't block the people from seeing you, thank God.
I'm glad you hear that.
Okay, thank you for coming in, Kimberly. And then Sion found his way to us. I don't see where Jennifer is, but may God help her be able to hear the class and see the class as well. Anyway, we thank you for coming in. I'm sorry I really didn't get to teach today, but I have an eye appointment tomorrow, and hopefully it will take care of the situation. So that because even reading the book was challenging, but may God help all the issues, and may I go back to 100% normal by tomorrow afternoon. B'ezrat Hashem, including perfect eyesight that I've had all my life, right? But anyway, thank you for coming in, and I hope you enjoyed the class, and we'll be back with the help of the Almighty tomorrow. Tomorrow, yeah, today's Tuesday. We'll be back tomorrow night, God willing, same time, same station. God bless you all. Thank you for being there. Zai Gaben Chabiga Son. Hi, Father. Please